And away we go. It is the BCJ Podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. Make sure when you're downtown, maybe pregame for the Bengals, whatever it may be, Bearcat road games, except for maybe next week. I'm not sure about that one. You're going to need a final ruling on that from the higher ups. But make sure you're stopping to see our good friends at the Holy Grail. They will get you taken care of. Great food, great fun. And they are proud supporters of our good friends at Cincy Reigns. So stop in, get yourself a Cincy Light, and 50 cents from every purchase will be donated back into the Cincy Reigns NIL Collective. I have heard nothing but good things when it comes to how much money the Grail has been able to donate back to Cincy Reigns off of purchases at Cincy Light. Of Cincy Light at the Holy Grail. So stop in, treat yourself, have a good time, and have some Cincy Light while you're there. All right, Dave, let's get this show on the road. It's been an eventful Wednesday. Been an eventful week around the day. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you for asking.
But that's what we're here for. I take heat for having us talk about how we're doing at the beginning of these podcasts.
How are you doing?
It's been a week. It's
only Wednesday.
Yeah, there was an MRI or an X-ray for Kelsey this morning. They're afraid she might have a stress fracture in her back. So we get an MRI next Wednesday, and then we find out how long she is out of volleyball. Could be a couple weeks, could be a month, could be 3 months, could be a couple months in a back brace.
That sounds fun.
What we learned today is Kelsey has her mom's pain tolerance if she's been dealing with a stress fracture for 2 months and still playing volleyball every day. Because I know if I had a stress fracture in my back, if that thing would have healed because I wouldn't have got out of bed for a month.
Probably.
I'd have brought the laptop. I'd have got one of those things that like sits on your lap in bed.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have brought the laptop to bed and I'd have been podcasting from there.
Would have been entertaining.
So it's been a week. But the show must go on. So Here we are.
We got football to talk about.
We do have football to talk about. We got a lot of football to talk about. Big news today out of Tempe that we will hit later in the show. But first off, let's put a bow on UCF. This segment, we'll do it in the beginning now. We sometimes do it at the end. We'll do it in the beginning. This segment brought to you by our good friends at Homefield Apparel. Can't miss kickoff 2024. They've got the platinum football boxes. They also have the new coaches jackets and the new pullovers, the quarter zip pullovers. That one is absolutely fire. If you haven't seen it, it's got the dunking Bearcat on the sleeve, the old 90s script Cincinnati on the front. It is it's not a quarter zip, it's pullover. But they are outstanding. They have a great line of gear. They have everything. They have joggers and T-shirts and crew necks and hoodies, socks, hats, jackets, pullovers, quarter zips, you name it. Homefield has you taken care of for all of your Bearcats needs. So go check them out, homefieldapparel.com. Enter code BCJ24, and you will get 15% off of your first purchase at Homefield Apparel. So support those who support us. Go see our good friends at Homefield. They have, in terms of selection, there's nobody that has a better selection of vintage UC apparel. So go check them out, homefieldapparel.com, code BCJ24. UCF is in the rear view, Dave. It was not to script based on how Cincinnati has played football this year. They held UCF to 13 points. The offense did not have a great day. They were better in the second half. The first half was a struggle. They went 19-13, moved to 2-1 in the Big 12, 4-2 on the season. They have surpassed last season's win total. I still look at this, Dave, and there's plenty, I think, to take of it from UC, but I think the takeaway is UCF's in trouble. Like that is a program not trending in the right direction right now, because that was a UC team that just offensively did not have it going, and they were primed for the plucking if UCF was able to take advantage of their defense, and they could not.
Yeah, I think the thing that kind of gives me the most encouragement from that game is just that we had kind of been in a bit of this mode of like, this is what it's going to take for UC to get wins. And they were able to go on the road and get a win against a team that I feel like is reeling, but go on the road, get a win in just call it what it was. I mean, it was not a great performance. It was an ugly win. And I don't think we probably were looking at games like that saying, if a game's 19-13, that probably doesn't bode well for UC, because we just have become accustomed, or at least this year we've felt wins are going to be because of the offense and the defense being opportunistic and doing enough. And so to get a win in that fashion, I think gives me, I'm not going to say like a ton of confidence, because they still have to play several much, much better teams, but like it tells me that things are in a good spot inside the program when things are not going according to plan. Like, and you don't let it get to you. You don't allow, a couple turnovers inside the opponent 30 to really hurt you. And you do what you need to do. I mean, it's a 12 games. It's wild to say this is a 12 game season. We're in week 8 now. Like
halfway done schedule wise.
It's like, are you kidding me? Yeah. But you're coming up at 3-9 season. You've got a new defensive coordinator. You got a new quarterback. You got a whole bunch of new defensive players. Like, this wasn't going to just be like a continuous build week to week. Like, there's going to be ebbs and flows, but can you win those games when you aren't at your best, regardless of who the opponent is? Like, we are in no position at the current state of things to really care about the status of any of the opponents. We're trying to win games, build momentum, help with recruiting, help with the portal, help with fan engagement, help with all those things. I don't give a rip if UCF stinks. Like, we need to play good football. We need to get wins. And you want to talk, we'll talk metrics and analytics later, but even with a game that aesthetically and maybe overall was not their best, I mean, they're still elevating week after week after week. They are raising their level of play in these measurables that go far beyond the box score and things like that. And, and this is not like a preachy thing or whatever, but I'm just trying to be present and enjoy it. Like, could things be better? Sure. Could you nitpick more? Could you nitpick a ton out of a 19-13 win? Of course you can. You could nitpick stuff out of a 34-0 win against Houston if you really want, but what good does that do? Like, the team's playing well. They're having fun. I think it's clearly obvious that it's a different mentality, a different chemistry this year to last year. So you got 6 games left. Let's see what the hell happens.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, we talked a lot about after the Pitt game. Like, we're going to find out if this team is different, what this team is made of, right? Like, let's see. The rubber has met the road. They took a game that they should have won against a Pitt team that is now 6-0. And they were able to bounce back. They were able to respond. And this team last year didn't respond. Like, that's not breaking news. That's, they lost to Miami and they fell apart. And they only got one more win the rest of the season. And this year could have been very similar. You know, they had a game that they should have won for their first loss of the season, the second game of the season. And all the talk in the offseason was the leadership is different. The work ethic is different. This team is together, you know. But what, you know, it's the old Mike Tyson. Everybody wants to fight until they get punched in the face. And then, you know, you find out what they're made of. The team got punched in the face. And their only loss since then was a down-to-the-wire game at Texas Tech where both teams were out of their mind offensively. Like, that was one of those games. Would you rather play well and lose or not play well and win? They played well against Texas Tech in a lot of phases. Defensively, obviously, Texas Tech presented a lot of problems, but they played well and lost, and then they come back after a bye week, and they're not at their best, and they win. And that is not something I think last year's team was up to.
No.
So you're seeing progress. I mean, it's funny, Dave, now they're playing well. So all of a sudden everybody's hitting me back up to be on their shows. You know, I was on Big 12 Insiders today, and I did the show with Smoke and the guys on Baylor 365, the Baylor YouTube channel, which I love those shows. Those shows are great. But they're not calling me when they think Cincinnati's going to finish 14th in the conference.
Right.
They don't want to talk to me at that point in time. I don't blame them. Like, be good, and everybody wants to talk about you. Well, this week, all of a sudden, hey Chad, what are you doing tomorrow? Can you come on the show? Can you pop on? Can you give us a couple minutes? Yeah. So, you know, that's good. That's the fun stuff. It's like you said, it's being present. It's enjoying a team that seems to enjoy playing together, and they continue to kind of elevate their level of play. Do we think that this is like a great team? Like, you know, a couple of the guys today mentioned, like, this is a team that's not out of it. They can play for a Big 12 championship. I'm like, we're not there.
Right. But it's a team that can rely on other parts if one of the parts isn't up to snuff that day. Like, it's not a, oh God, like the offense doesn't have it today, we got no shot.
Right.
Type team where the defense is your calling card and the other team comes out and scores 14 points in the first quarter, and you're like, well, we're, you know, not going to be our day. Like, you know, let's see what happens. I mean, this league is crazy. I said either last week on this show or Sunday morning, like, you can't really take results week to week. I think maybe with a few teams, you might be able to start at least doing that a little bit. But, you know, I'm not really willing to, like, jump out on that limb. I'm not really willing to, like, take a whole bunch of road teams to win in this league. So, you know, let's see what happens.
The other thing I love is, like, you know, I'm at a point in this league, Dave, where going forward, I don't care about the preseason coaches poll.
Yeah, this is like what? Obviously, last year we weren't paying too much attention to it when we weren't in the conference, but like this year and last year, I mean, yes, there's still 6 games to go. I feel like Iowa State and Kansas State are probably the 2 best teams. But like the other preseason favorite is one of the worst teams in the conference. The 2 teams that are playing this week were picked to finish 14th and 16th.
Right.
Again, well, six games left.
Kansas is terrible.
Yeah. Oklahoma State was who I was referring to. Is like them, Kansas State, and Iowa State.
Arizona and Utah were supposed to come in and be contenders for a league championship. Like, well, Utah's 4 of the top 6 teams are in the bottom 6 right now.
Is collecting AARP, so like, you know.
I think Cam Rising was a freshman the same year as Gunnar Kiel, wasn't he?
I actually saw a thing today.
Desmond Ritter. Was he in Desmond Ritter's senior class?
Well, he was in the same class as Brock Purdy, who's been in the NFL how many years? I saw
like he feels like he's been in the NFL for a decade.
It was like a cut of like
Zach Wilson.
Yeah, quarterback rankings from 24/7s. It was like Will Levis, Zach Wilson, Brock Purdy, and Cam Rising were all like in the same group together. And he still has another year of eligibility if he really wanted to use it.
Yeah.
I don't think his body will allow that. But yeah, I mean, like this league is a crapshoot week to week. You know, you get some injury luck for you, get some injury luck from somebody else, and you know, it's not our job to worry about anybody else but us, or apologize for anybody else. Just play the game, see what happens, enjoy it.
Yeah.
We got, like I said, it's week 8 already. The season will be over in like 2 months.
Hey, Samuel, I just want to say I love people that want to talk shit while they're watching my show. But if you're UCF, what do you do from here? Like, is it do they almost have to fire Gus?
They can't afford to. Not this year.
There's
not
also
not unless they go 3-9 and everybody just decides we're all pitching in. They can't.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have to spend money to make money because
for sure
everybody down there seems like they're out on him.
Well, I give that fan base a lot of crap all the time because, and this is part of the reason why is that they're showing their fragility of 6 months ago we were Big 12 dark horses, and now like I think I tweeted we want to essentially salvage the Gus bus for parts. Like you got no spine, man. Like,
yeah, but
losing happens. Like, maybe don't buy into all the BS that you were.
That's fair.
You were floating, or others were like. I'm not gonna do the like I told you so, but there's some people on the board and some people I speak to privately that I kind of called this one a while ago. It felt like it was teetering on the brink of collapse. And there were like if this was my team, I'd be asking a whole lot of questions around specifically the quarterback situation. And how KJ Jefferson makes it to 5 starts. I mean, I understand you bring the guy in, you paid him the money. It was a splash move, but it was very apparent, very early, that this was not like 2022 KJ Jefferson.
Right.
And I would be questioning, like, what are we seeing in practice that is telling you to keep running him out there?
Money.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, is that the answer? Like, we paid him, we got to play him. I mean, that's bad. That's bad business on their end. I mean, you're going to sacrifice your, like, but they're going. It's just crazy. Like the extremes. Like and every fan base has this faction. It's like they're tagging Gus's wife in Twitter posts.
Come on.
I mean, it's like, but that just showed, like, you know, but it would bother, the quarterback situation would bother me, and his comments this week would bother me about a restart. You're in year 4. You paid a lot of money to bring in this transfer quarterback, and you brought in a whole bunch of other transfers. You can't be talking about a restart 6 games into year 4.
Yeah, like year 4 is when you're supposed to be.
Year 4 is I'm either giving you a 3-year contract extension because things are going
moving on
well, or we're talking about a change.
Right.
So, you know, it'll be interesting. I mean, I do enjoy listening to some of their podcasts because it's very fun. And They're trying to find one win the rest of the season. If they do go 3-9, I think a lot of us will have some good belly laughs. All things considered from the summer about, Darren Hinshaw retweeting about how they got 3 of our former players, and how we're like their farm system, which, hey, Darren, maybe score 2 touchdowns in a game this month before, think about that before you tweet stuff out. But,
no comment.
Bearcats got the win. Did a lot of things that they could probably want to clean up. Defense came through when they needed to. And, you move on. Take on Arizona State, which is a game that I'm not going to say some of my excitement has been tempered because of the Sam Levitt news, but, I was very much looking forward to this game. And I still am. Because I feel like this is the first true, we got the road win against UCF, but to me, this is the first real needle mover of this season. You win this game, all right, let's start talking.
Yeah, we'll get to Arizona State here shortly. The other thing I want to mention, Dave, that I'm curious on your take. Where is your confidence level with this defense? Because yes, Texas Tech was not a great day for that defense. I also think Texas Tech, when they're clicking, has an outstanding variety of ways to beat you offensively.
Yeah, I think if Baron Morton doesn't turn the ball over, they are a very, very good offense.
Yeah. But Cincinnati's played 3 Big 12 games. They shut out Houston. They held UCF to 13. There's going to be better offenses coming down the pipe, especially next week in Colorado is going to be really difficult, especially, the word is that Travis Hunter is healthy.
Yeah, he's going to play this week, so that's not
this week, right?
Yeah.
But we would be wondering if he was going to play next week if Dion said he was out this week. Is kind of what I'm getting at. But they're running the ball better. They've got a really good quarterback. They've got the best player in college football. Well, the second best player in college football. I'm going with your boy as the best player in college football right now.
I don't know. Travis Hunter's still.
I know. He's a dude.
You're splitting hairs with those two.
Right.
I won't fault anybody either way.
But is your confidence rising in this defense? Is it still? I think I'm still in a game-to-game mode with them, where I am not confident that every week they're going to come out like the 2021 team. Every week, I know that defense is going to.
No.
But I'm getting to a game-to-game point where it's I'm feeling better about them each week that passes.
Cautiously optimistic.
I think it's fair.
Because I think my I don't know if expectations is the right word, but I'm not looking for them to do a 13-point or a shutout every game. If you hold a team into the 20s, the low to mid 20s, I feel confident most games this offense will be good enough to win that game.
Yeah.
Just don't the Texas Tech game. You got one turnover? And I mean,
one really turnover, and that was on special teams. That was
right, and really didn't stop them all game. So don't do that. Anything kind of less than better than that, I'm fine with. College football, man, it is a points barrage by the best teams. You're just not good. I mean, the best defenses are, not gonna be awesome every week. So, this week, Arizona State, can you keep them in the 20s or less? I mean, obviously less. I really like our chances, but Can you keep them in the 20s? Then I feel pretty good. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to win. We could have a terrible offensive game. We could have a bunch of turnover. I mean, silly things can still happen. But if you're just asking me, like, I think this defense is good enough to keep most teams in the 20s. And we've shown that if that is not the way the game play is going, that the offense has the capability to match that.
Right. I do feel better about linebacker. Like now that we're seeing
playing much better.
The ascension of Jake Golday changes that conversation because he's the type of guy that can be. He's not going to be that this year when he started slow, but the type of guy that a year from now, I wouldn't be surprised based on what we're seeing if there's talk of him as like an all-conference type linebacker. I'm not saying first team or whatever, but like in that conversation. And then that slots Jared Bartlett down a notch, right? Now you're not looking at Jared Bartlett and saying, we need him to be, the best linebacker on the field.
Right.
I feel a lot more confident if he's the second best linebacker on the defense. And then you can mix and match Jonathan Thompson and Simeon Coleman and Monte Whedon. And like now all of a sudden you're operating from a position of strength as opposed to the first couple weeks. It was like Golday is figuring it out and Bartlett is playing really well one week and not great, the next. And that room was not what we thought we were seeing in camp. Well, and now I think you're starting to see a little bit more of what we saw in camp as to why we thought they had a chance to be good.
I agree with everything you just said. I also just want to say, like, you're now seeing the real impact of Dante Corleone.
That's fair as well. Yeah.
Like, let's not cut the BS. Like, the linebacker play in the first couple weeks was a lot to do with them, and it was a lot to do without not having one of the best defensive tackles in the country in there doing what he's capable of doing, which clears up so much for them to then be able to do.
That's fair.
So I think that's a huge part in. I mean, they're playing way better. Like the play that Jake. I mean, he practically overran Johnny Richardson, but was still able to get his arm up and force the. That had nothing to do with Dante Corleone. So, like, I'm not saying that like this is all right. Because of Dante. I mean, they're playing better. Like Dante wasn't even in on the last play of the game when they brought pressure and him and Bartlett and other guys, Kim Wilson were in there to like clean up for the sack. Like, so this is not 100%, but when you have a dominant nose / whatever D tackle, however they want to shade him, like that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to open things up for the linebackers.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to double team Dante, you're going to have problems. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
And most teams don't want to do that. They want to try to get away without it. But if you're not going to do it, you're going to have problems because he's going to destroy the center more times than not. Destroy the center one-on-one.
That's got to be demoralizing to just get mauled by a dude for 60 minutes. Just thrown around like a rag doll over and over again.
Bearcats have done that a lot to UCF centers over the years.
Yeah.
Still my favorite play in the last 3 years was the UCF home game when Curtis Brooks destroyed the center and they threw that like bubble screen that Brian Cook just filled and knocked the piss out of the dude like around the 5-yard line. It was a perfect play.
And it's a good point, Kieran. Encouraged by the body language. Guys seem to be giving it all, excited, bought in every week. That's the difference between being 4-2 and 4 points away from undefeated and 2-4 and fading fast. Guys are having a lot more fun.
It's easy to be the energy giver when things are going good. It's hard to be that guy when things are not going good.
Right, because everybody looks at you and goes, will you shut the fuck up?
We're down 40. Like, chill out, man.
And then Samuel, and I was just messing with you earlier, man. Is it being comfortable in a new scheme or facing a familiar foe? My first thought is those foes aren't familiar to this team. They're familiar to us.
Yeah.
Who are the guys that played in the American Athletic Conference on defense? Dante,
Eric Phillips.
Dingle, Phillips. Is that it?
Probably.
Jonathan Thompson, I think.
I mean, he was on the team. That would be his true freshman year.
Yeah. He redshirted, didn't he?
I
Redshirt sophomore?
That's what I don't even know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Kalen Carroll was the same class.
Yeah, I think a couple of guys were redshirted, but didn't see the field. Like, that's the crazy part about college football in 2024. There was a coaching change, and we are at a point where we talked about this. There was like 14 guys that took a snap in practice with Luke Fickell as their coach coming into this season. And it was 2 seasons ago. So as wild as it sounds, this team is not familiar with the American Conference at all.
no.
None of the coaches were here. I mean, Walt and Carey were here. That's it. And almost none of the players were here. So I don't think it's that. I think, I think deserves a lot of flowers, Dave.
Who's that?
Zach Grant, Jack Griffith, Carter Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
That, like, Cass. Those guys did a really good job this offseason. Like, a really good job this offseason for a team that had a lot of holes to fill. And now you're looking around and, Bartlett and Minkins and Canteen have made a bunch of plays at safety. And Bartlett and Golday are playing well at linebacker. And, you rotating through a bunch of guys on the defensive line because of injuries. But, those guys are helping out. And across the offense, Tony Johnson and Joe Royer and Brendan Sorsby, obviously. Like that. And then you've got a bunch of freshmen that are coming in and learning the ropes and doing the one thing that does seem to accelerate a youngster's timeline, and that's seeing the field in year one. And playing, if not the most meaningful reps, playing reps that matter, especially early in your freshman season. I do think that talent acquisition department is my new name, but it's not the recruiting department anymore because there's a whole lot more to it than just recruiting.
Yeah.
It is talent acquisition. I do think we got to give those guys some flowers because looking around, like their fingerprints are all over this thing right now.
Yeah, especially with the transfer guys. Like, I know a lot is always made about, where a guy came from, what kind of production or not production they had at the previous stop or stops. At this point, like, I don't really care about any of that. Just if you're good enough to be added to this roster and you produce, then that's all that really matters. Like, I'm not saying we should discount it completely, like, when it's happening, but I mean, and it's not year over year. It's kind of like turnover luck. I mean, just because you had a bunch of guys come in one year that produced right away doesn't mean that's going to. I mean, it's recruiting. It's young people. There's all sorts of variables. But I mean, look at the guys they brought in, and especially the transfers. There's a lot of them that were brought in to be contributors that are living up to some level of expectation.
And my favorite part is it's all over the place.
Right.
Joe Royer, Ohio State. Jared Bartlett, West Virginia. Derek Canteen, Virginia Tech. But just as much, Jake Golday, Tony Johnson, Jamoy Mays. Like, guys that are coming from various lower levels. Brendan Sorsby. I mean, up until this year, Indiana did not play Power 5 football. They were in a Power 5 football league, but they didn't play Power 5 football. So that's where I think it is at least somewhat maybe sustainable is there's not one specific like this is what we do, and if that doesn't work for a year, then you didn't get the guys you wanted. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like being able to identify across multiple levels and saying this guy can help us here, this guy can help us there, and being right as a scout, that's a hell of a talent. Because these guys are like, you know, especially Jack and Zach and Carter, like those guys scout heavily. And it's a little more reassuring to know the guys that are doing the scouting might be pretty good at it.
Well, it's much more roster building than just signing 25, 17, and 18-year-olds each year and seeing how that goes. Like, I mean, look at just use UC in Central Florida as an example. Like there are other variables going into why one is playing well and one is not, but like Central Florida got a lot of hype for the transfer class they brought in.
Right.
UC did not. And one seems to have a lot of guys who are contributing. One seems to have a lot of guys that have not, you know, been able to meet expectations. Whether those were accurate or not is a different story. But you brought in a big time transfer quarterback and a whole lot of other pieces. That had all the earmarks of a go for it year, and we see where things have gone. UC brought in a lot of transfers for an entirely different reason
that nobody batted an eye at.
And we're seeing how it's going through 6 games. So, you know, I think you certainly can, you know, and there's always going to be misses, but like, sure. I think it's clear that you can kind of look at those guys and see that there's a sound method behind who they're trying to get and why they're trying to get them, because you are building like, it's just different to me now than it is. Like, yes, you're building a roster with freshmen, but like, you're not expecting them to really do anything in year one. Now you're building rosters of like, yes, we need this receiver, but we also need this type of receiver because we don't have anything on the roster right now to fill that specific role. And that role might be like second team slot receiver.
That role might be Logan Johnson and Trey Gala-Collard, in that group that have come in at safety and given them important snaps. They haven't been starters. They haven't been, you know, guys that are going to win newcomer of the week or whatever in the conference, but they're guys that have been important pieces of the depth.
Right. Because we had talked about top end talent last year, but we also talked about depth a lot.
And they have, you know, you started the season without your right tackle. You filled in there. And then as soon as your right tackle got healthy, your NFL prospect left guard goes down, and you've survived that. And hopefully DT's back this week and we get that starting offensive line that we were thinking we were going to get out of camp that we haven't seen through the first 6 games.
Yeah, I'm especially because I'm surprised that UCF never really picked up that they were running it to the right every single time.
Yeah.
So hopefully
Luke Andrews pretty good.
Yeah, but like you would think at some point they'd be like, we're just going to overload one side and dare you to run it the other way.
Right. I mean, they were okay at stopping the run, but you know, that wasn't enough. The other thing that is abundantly clear, Dave, and this is obviously the Captain Obvious comment of the podcast from me, but if you get quarterback right, life gets a whole lot easier. UCF did not get quarterback right. By all indications, Cincinnati did.
For sure. I mean, I've said it a million times, like college football is coach and quarterback.
Yep.
The other spots are, it's not that they're not important, but you can do a lot if you've got the coach and the quarterback right.
And more importantly, the quarterback, I think.
I do too.
Because we've seen a lot of coaches look real good, and then the quarterback moves on, and all of a sudden, that coach doesn't look as awesome anymore.
Or the quarterback that they have just papers over is good enough to paper over.
That's what I'm saying.
Other issues. It's not even that they could be there, and they're that good. I mean, I think Thorsby didn't have a good first half, had a much better second half, but
yeah.
But like I don't those interceptions, like they don't like portend anything about any future games. It wasn't like they were like I'd be more alarmed if like if he fell into a pattern of bad reads than just a bad throw.
Right.
Like if you're consistently running an RPO and you're not seeing the linebacker, or you're running an out and you're consistently like not getting it to the sideline, these were just bad throws. They happen.
Yeah. Or you're reading man and they're in zone, and like the corner is just sitting there waiting on the flat route because that's his zone. Like stuff like that. That's not the problem.
Not too worried about it. You're gonna throw a couple bad balls. You just hope that they don't get picked.
I thought it was interesting. He said, like in the first half, he thought he was seeing it right, which is kind of what you're getting at. He was seeing it right. He just didn't. He made a couple bad throws. Like he made a couple of throws that are uncharacteristic. It's kind of what I've talked about with him, like in observing him. He's very much a rhythm guy. When he's in rhythm, he is outstanding.
When
he's off rhythm, like he can make a couple mistakes.
The first one, I don't think it was a great throw. I'd also be curious to hear from either Royer or I think it was Tony Johnson. Was it Tony Johnson or Mays?
I don't think he saw the corner over in that. I
think one of them ran the wrong route.
Yeah.
Because you should not, on a ball that far down the field, you should not have two receivers that close to each other. Where the one guy came off of.
What I'm guessing was Thorsby scrambled, and then once a guy scrambles, you're just trying to find open space. And I wonder how much of that was because it looked like Royer broke off his route and was kind of like working his way back to the ball, while Tony Johnson was working his way down the field, and that put them in the same vicinity where the corner was able to come over and get underneath.
You just got to throw that one further, and if your guy doesn't get to it, nobody does. You just kind of arm punted it a little bit. And the second one was just a bad ball. If he throws it inside, it's probably a catch. There was a guy coming, so maybe there's a bang play and it's incomplete or whatever. But you throw it behind, it gets tipped up. That's when you get the interceptions. Is when middle throws get batted up. There's just too many bodies around there typically.
So get quarterback right. Like if you want to be good, especially in this era where like over half of the schools, it feels like, or close to half the schools in Division I are starting a transfer quarterback. If you get quarterback right, the rest of it becomes much easier. And I don't like using that word easier, but that's the only word you can use. The rest of it falls into place a lot easier if you're going out there for 60, 70 snaps a game, knowing we got a dude that can win us the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Does Gus make it through the year?
Yeah.
You think they don't have the money to get rid of him?
No.
They just re-signed him, a year ago?
I don't know the true details of it, but it'd be hard for me to imagine because he's in year 4. So he's not a lame duck coach. Like he probably signed an
giving
initial
him extension.
he probably signed an initial 5 or 6 year deal.
Yeah.
So he's gotten an extension. Now, how long is the extension? I don't know. And was it? But I find it there would need to be a major collapse with maybe some other stuff, some true donor.
No, it was in the middle of last year, Dave. October 5th, 2023. Gus Malzahn gets new deal through 27.
Yeah, he ain't getting fired.
No way. He's making $5.5 million annually.
It's good work if you can get it.
Gus is maybe pulling for that extended vacation where you get paid to not work. That's an unhappy bunch down there. It's you hate to see it. You really do.
It follows this. It's following the same. It's got a lot of the similar earmarks of the end of his run at Auburn.
Yeah. Started hot. I think they're 9-10 in their last 19 games.
I mean, there's just lack of QB development, play calling issues,
recruiting stars instead of people. I think is a big problem for them. Like if it's not the right dude, just because they have 4 stars doesn't mean you need to have them on your team.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw that at the first sign of trouble. There was a bunch of dudes that were like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. What do you come on in for?
Bases
loaded, 2 outs.
Lindor's up.
Yeah, I just looked over.
I'm not watching because I don't want to be distracted. I'm just checking the score on an app. So
I've got it on over here. I just hadn't looked in a while.
If I had it on, it would be rough. So
let me tell you what happens if it happens.
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
I'll watch for you. So yeah, I mean they're not in a great place because I don't want to get into a whole thing about this, but I think they've tried to take shortcuts. I think they looked at going into a new league and they said, we're going to try to shortcut our way through this acclimation process instead of buckling down and trying to build it out, properly. And this is kind of that philosophy can work. I'm not saying it's always a bad philosophy.
No.
What I'm saying is when it doesn't work, it is generally it implodes. It's not like a soft landing. It usually there's mess everywhere.
Yeah. They good luck to them.
Yeah. But now we don't have to worry about them for a year, so out of sight, out of mind. Now it's one of the toughest 2-game stretches anybody in the conference will have, and that's Arizona State at home and Colorado on the road. Just like we predicted at the beginning of the season.
You just like it. Still not loving the Iowa State, Kansas State stretch.
No. Like
back-to-back roadies.
Don't feel good on that one. Ames and Manhattan. Ames, Iowa, Manhattan, Kansas, and back-to-back weeks in November.
Yeah.
Gross.
Nope, not good.
We'll get to that when we get to it, though. It's coming down the road. So yeah, I guess we can timestamp that. There wasn't a whole lot of talk about that game in particular, but I don't know why. We don't have a whole lot else that we could have discussed. So I like doing kind of a 10,000 feet view of where we think things are at to open the Wednesday pod. But that is brought to you by our good friends at Turtles Brew. 6% ABV, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free. It's a bourbon-infused sweet tea. They have lemonade tea. They have strawberry mint, cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla. There's over 100 locations in greater Cincinnati. Over 100 locations in Ohio, 50 locations in greater Cincinnati. If you want to find out where to get the Turtles Brew pouches or bottles, plastic bottles nearest you, just go to turtlesbrew.com for more information and locations. Let's get to Arizona State, Dave.
All right.
It is it changed a lot today.
Yeah,
as we found out that starting quarterback out, Jeff Sims in. I really thought I watched an Arizona State game at the beginning of the year, and then I watched the Utah game. And I thought their passing game had really come a long way. Because when I watched them early in the year, it was like Scottaboo's really good, but I don't know if they can move the ball through the air enough to really, do consistent damage in this league. And then I watched the Utah game, and man, their passing was efficient. It wasn't explosive, like they weren't going to put up 400 yards on you, but you have to focus so much on stopping the run game that their pass game had really come a long way. I think you lose that.
For sure. I mean,
more likely than not with Jeff Sims in there.
The biggest concern I had was obviously Cam Scattaboo. I just like saying Boo because it's a fun name. That might be wrong. I mean, he is exceptionally good. Like,
yeah,
he's second in the country in scrimmage yards behind Ashton Genty. He has incredible contact balance. His touchdown run against Utah was outstanding.
Yes.
He is either leading the nation in tackles broken or second to Genty. He's a very good pass catcher out of the backfield, which is in part of the reason he's number 2 in the country in total scrimmage yards. I mean, he's their second leading receiver. My concern was that Sam Leavitt is very athletic, and that we would see a lot of similar stuff to what we saw last week, but with a quarterback who can actually throw. So we would have been in a very similar situation of last week, where I think they did the right thing in basically just saying, I don't care if the quarterback keeps it on some RPOs. We're just not going to let RJ Harvey beat us. And that was fine last week against a quarterback in his first start, the 17-year-old, and then Ja'Cory Brown. But I don't know how well that would have worked this week, given that I think Sam Leavitt is just a way better quarterback than anything that UCF was going to put out there. But now, I mean, Jeff Sims, you have the book on him. He's in his 5th year. He's thrown 49 passes in the last 2 seasons. Last year for Nebraska in limited action, he threw 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. He's a career 57% passer with practically a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, which is not good. I mean, 31 touchdowns, 29 interceptions. He is a very legit running threat. So I think they're going to see a lot of what they saw last week. I just don't know in a full game situation how many times they're going to truly drop him back and let him throw.
Right.
Now, hopefully you put them into situations where it's forced upon them, but how many 1st and 10s you really think they're just going to let him throw?
Right.
They're just going to give it to Cam or let him run and see what happens. These numbers are with Sam Leavitt. They're not a big play offense.
No. They are a move the chains offense.
20-yard plays, they're 84th in the country. 30-yard plays, they're 108th. And 40-yard plays, they're 65th. So they are very much a 10, 12, hope Cam catches a screen pass, breaks some tackles, they are not a big play offense. They're a consistent offense. I mean, all of the metrics say that this game is very close. I mean, SP Plus, UC's 2 spots higher. FEI, UC's 4 spots higher. K forward rating, 10 spots. I mean, UC's higher in every one of these. K forward rating, 10 spots higher. ESPN FPI, 6 spots. Sagman rating, 2 spots. Like, this should have been a very evenly matched game. I think the quarterback situation changes it greatly. Like, UC has a severe advantage at quarterback now.
Yeah. Wasn't UC recruiting Sims in the portal 2 years ago before Emory? So Matt, when this staff was hired, I started, kind of trying to reach out and make some connections and figure out like what the immediate plan was. The first name I was told to keep an eye on at any position. What do I need to keep an eye on in the portal? The name I was given was Jeff Sims. I think they wanted him at Louisville to replace Malik Cunningham. And that was kind of the plan. And then the portal opened and Nebraska came in and threw a large bag at the situation. And Sims ended up at Nebraska. Sometimes maybe money isn't the answer, other than it didn't work out, but he got a fat bag. So I'm sure he's not too broken up about it. But yeah, they were recruiting him in the portal. He was the guy that I think when they took the job, I think they felt like we've got Jeff Sims coming with us. And then it didn't happen and they pivoted to Emory.
It is interesting. Like, I mean, there's obviously a lot of tape on the guy, but tape is relative because of different systems and whatnot.
Yeah, where you're at. And yeah.
But they do know him more than they probably will know many other quarterbacks that they're facing. I mean, what is that worth? I don't know. It's really just, I mean, how do you do against Cam? And can you clean up some of the QB run stuff while still being dedicated to
stopping the running back,
just like you were against
RJ
UCF and RJ Harvey? Because, I mean, receiving wise, Jordan Tyson, leading receiver, 25 for 369, 4 touchdowns. Xavier Gilroy, 12 for 169 and a touchdown. Shaman's got, I think, 13 catches, a little bit over 100 yards, maybe a couple touchdowns. Like, it's very hard for me to extrapolate anything in the passing game now. I just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's
like I said, Dave, it took 3-4 weeks for that passing game really to like find a rhythm. They were not throwing the ball well early in the season.
I just see so much of last week's UCF offense on Saturday. It's the free release throws, the RPO throws, and then take a couple shots here and there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's you're going to run, and we're going to give the ball to, arguably one of the top 5 running backs in the country.
Dave, coming into this game, they ran the ball 60% of the time.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine it's not going to be 65 pushing 70%.
Yeah.
Like if they have the game plan that they want to execute, it's 15, 18, 20 throws and 45 to 55 runs.
Yeah.
Whether it's quarterback or running back.
The difference, I think, with Scatabo, and I'm a big RJ Harvey guy, like I talked about early in the year when he was really like getting going, like he was one of my favorite guys to watch through the first like 3 weeks of the season because he was just dominating people. Scatabo, whatever, likes to run through contact.
Oh,
he loves, you think you got him down, and all of a sudden there he is like 7 yards downfield.
One of my notes is just like last week, they have to really run to the ball, gang tackle. You cannot rely on one guy to get him down.
Yeah.
He's just going to keep fighting. And I imagine we'll see. I'm hoping we see a great Antoine Peak Jr. collision. I mean, I imagine he's playing a step closer to the line of scrimmage this week, and it's go find that dude and get him on the ground.
Yeah. And while you're at it, give it one of these.
Oh, yeah.
Because he is outstanding at punching the ball loose.
For sure.
His dad said he taught that to him when he was a kid, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure.
Senior, he was the leader in like forced fumble. That was a move he was good at. And he said, how am I going to be the fumble guy and not teach him when he's coming up the trick of getting the ball out?
Yeah.
That wasn't him like tooting his own horn. That was like, no, you're damn right I taught him that. Like that was my secret weapon. Of course I'm going to teach the kid the secret weapon.
Yeah. Their defense is right behind UC in sacks. UC has 15, they have 14.
Offense, real quick. I did want to give one other offensive stat.
Yes.
And I think this is maybe the biggest one, Dave. Red zone scoring percentage.
Oh, I have all my stats broken down to get to, but yeah.
108th.
Well, I like touchdown, red zone touchdown percentage. They're 56 at 97th in the country in touchdown percentage. And UC's fifth.
108th in scoring.
UC's fifth in the country in defensive red zone touchdown percentage.
Yeah. That's a big one. A big one.
Yeah. But defensively, I kind of highlighted three guys: Miles Rouser, very solid DB, leading tackler, 4 pass breakups. I imagine we'll see a lot of him. Clayton Smith, D lineman, leads the team in sacks with 4. Caleb McCullough, linebacker, had 2 interceptions last week versus Utah. I mentioned they're good at stopping the big play. They're 33rd in 20-yard plays, 14th in 30-yard plays, and 8th in 40-yard plays. Like, you'll have to find some, but it will probably be more of a methodical approach. They're going to have to sustain drives, going to have to still be good on third down, where they are not great. Like UC's 14th in the country third down offense. They're 96th in the country third down defense. So that's a margin play right there. There's maybe some hidden yards to be gained in punting. UC's 13th, they're 80th. Their third down offense is pretty good. I mean, it's 47th. UC's third down defense is 82nd. Everything else is we talked about the red zone stuff. Like UC's red zone touchdown percentage is 112th, but their defensive touchdown percentage isn't really much better at 90th. So it's kind of the battle of the
the movable force and the resistible object.
Yeah, like neither team does great when they get into the red zone. They let up touchdowns and we can't score any.
Right.
Penalties, could be some hidden yards there. They're averaging about 20 yards more per game in penalties. Being on the road, can we get a couple cheapies with a quarterback that hasn't been taking a lot of reps? He's a veteran, but he's been a backup for going on 2 years. So how ready is he to be thrust into a road environment? Yeah, we'll see.
How much do you put into the time change stuff?
I mean, it's not worth nothing. Like we've seen these pack.
The numbers say it's worth something.
These teams that are traveling from the west to the east. Now they're not fully west. I guess technically they're mountain time.
Well, is it 2 hours still, and then they go back to 3 hours?
At some point, it is that like different parts of Arizona. I'm not going to pretend to know like how Tempe falls on that, but it's a 10 a.m. kick. I mean, they're coming out Thursday. Yeah. Like they're trying to acclimate to that as much as possible. Now, they're going to walk out on that field, and it's going to be cold. And it's going to be early.
Yeah, at 10:30 in the morning, it's going to be chilly.
And
It ain't going to feel great.
Can you see jump on them early as they're getting, warmed? I mean, not warmed up, but you know what I mean. Like, you have an advantage. Take advantage of it.
Yeah.
You have multiple advantages. You're at home. It's an early game for them. They have a backup quarterback. Like, you're both playing well. So, I mean, like, everybody should still be confident. I doubt they're, like, all moping around like, oh, my God, we can't win now because Sam Levitt's not playing. But you have significant advantages. Use them and win this game.
I mean, it's not like, it's not like it's going to be tomorrow morning where, there's going to be frost on the car at 7 a.m. Like that's not going to be the case Saturday morning. But they're still going to be coming out there at 10 o'clock here, which is 7 or 8 o'clock back there, whatever portion of the time zone
they'll be coming out on the field, and it will be in the high 40s or low 50s.
I think it's actually going to be a little higher than that, but either way.
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, well, then it dropped. Is it still supposed to get up to 70?
No. Well, at 5 o'clock.
Okay. So yeah, like, do you think the heaters make an appearance?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're Arizona. They're used to 30 degrees warmer than this still.
It's still 75.
The state has a law that in September you can't kick off before 8 p.m. We're only
too hot.
We're only 2.5 weeks into October. Like,
right. I mean, I think it was 100 recently there within the past 2 weeks. So, yeah. I don't know. The one thing I will say, Cincinnati is going to have to be ready to face a physical team.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they have
faced run the ball 62% of the time if you're not a physical team.
Right. And I mean, even just offensively, they're going to have to be ready to face an Arizona State defense that is playing physical football. That's who Kenny Dillingham has coached them to be. You cannot be, because I don't, who have they played that's overly physical, Dave?
Utah.
No, I mean Cincinnati.
Oh, Cincinnati. Pitt defensively is pretty darn physical.
Yeah.
That's
about it.
Taj Brooks is physical.
I think Miami wants to be physical.
Do they?
Well, defensively, I think they want to. Offensively, I don't know what they were offensively. But yeah, I think you're going to have to be I think that's the one thing I'm interested to see from this Cincinnati bunch is facing it, because you're going to see it late. West Virginia wants to be like that. Kansas State and Iowa State want to be like that. You're going to deal with it in November. So I think this is a good opportunity to see what that entails.
Yeah.
Because they're going to come out and hit, and they're going to try to run your ass over with their run game, and they're going to try to smack you in the mouth defensively. So I do want to see how Cincinnati responds to that, because I don't think we've seen much of it this year.
No, I mean, Houston's defense, mugged up on the line a lot. They wanted to play physical and really try to stop the run. It's been more from the defenses than it's been from the offenses. UCF is more of a stopping the run team. So yeah, we've seen it more from opposing defenses than offenses who want to line up with multiple tight ends. I mean, UC does more of that than anybody they've played so far.
Yeah,
that wants to be physical offensively. So yeah, I mean, you play this again. Play a three down the line. You've had one game where two games where you did not do a very good job stopping the run, and one game that I would say you accomplished your objective. I'm not going to say they did, because there were still a lot of quarterback yards, but it didn't burn them. They accomplished their goal with RJ Harvey. So I'll give them that game. So you're 1-2 in the games against the teams that truly want to run the football.
If I would have told you when UC got accepted into the Big 12, Dave, that in their second year in the league, they were going to have a week where they faced 3 top 10 running backs, you would have told me I was a lunatic, right?
Yeah.
A month, not a week.
Okay.
Yes.
In 3 weeks, a month, whatever, in 3 games,
Yeah,
they were going to face 3 top 10 running backs back to back to back. Like, you would have told me I had lost my mind. That was not the MO of this league. It's been kind of cool to see, like, a shift, an adjustment, which I think is maybe slightly ahead of the curve in football in general, because I think teams are getting so light in the box. They're only putting 5-6 guys in there. The guys that are in there, middle linebackers used to be pushing 260, and now defensive ends are down in that range.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been a while, but I always remember the iconic pictures of Andy Katzenmoyer at Ohio State with the massive shoulder pads and the neck roll, and the linebackers were 240, 250. Some like you said, pushing even bigger than that, and everything was played inside the hashes, and it's just a totally different game now. But that's where you can gain an advantage if you can run the ball, because everybody wants to make sure they're covering as much grass as possible and not getting beat with the horizontal stuff and the quick games and the perimeter game. If you can run the ball, you control the game.
And you control the physicality. Like, you get to be the aggressor. If they're, the opponent is running 5-6 defensive backs most of the time, and you can line up and say, okay, here's our 5 offensive linemen. Cincinnati's been using Joe Royer, and can we get Francis Sherman in on those runs, on those plays? Like, when you're motioning a guy into the backfield to run the ball right at him, can we do a little less Joe Royer there? He's proven to the NFL he can do that. He's been good at it. Let's get Sherman back in there. Let's get the Sherman tank in there, Dave, to run people over instead of Joe Royer, please.
Yeah. Just give me 3. I want more 13 personnel. I want Royer, McCalmont, and Sherman in there.
Or you put Belgian in there, and then you got Royer and Belgian. Those are they're essentially wide receivers.
I like big butts. I want the beef.
Aaron knows the McCalmont family well. They're friends of his now. He's close with them.
Excellent.
So yeah, the matchup is a lot less exciting. Arizona State down their starting quarterback, but if it means the difference between 5-2 and 4-3, okay,
not my problem.
We're not going to be sitting here in April going, well,
the season was good, but you know how it would have been so much better is if Sam Levitt played instead of Tim Sim.
Right. Go get the win. There's a lot of things working in your favor. You're at Nippert. It's a time zone game. It's homecoming. The place is going to be packed. The place is I think there's I sense a growing level of excitement surrounding this team.
Yeah, they're fun. I mean, I'm enjoying watching them. It helps when you have, obviously winning and losing is the most important thing, but let's not diminish the fact of an aesthetically pleasing offense it makes things enjoyable to watch. Not that
Right.
you're like, oh, that game was we lost. Man, wasn't the offense fun to watch? Like, no, I'm not saying that.
Here's what you're saying. You're saying the difference is at the end of the game or at the beginning of the game, you're not telling yourself, do I really have to fucking watch this again?
Right.
There were times at the end of last year, it was like, I don't want to do this.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
I
I
just
have to
don't want
watch.
to do this.
I have to watch this, and then I have to talk about it tomorrow morning.
Right.
Oh my god.
I have to watch this, then drive home and talk about it immediately after the game.
Yeah. So
That's not fun.
no. Yeah, I want to see how the offense bounces back from a subpar performance last week.
Imagine having to drive 2.5 hours and then have to talk about it. Those even better.
No. How about no? I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. So let's get to a prediction, Dave. How do you think it plays out?
I mean, I think they're gonna have their hands full with Scadabo.
I do too.
He is that good. Like he's as good
But-
as
He's had 2 starts with 65 and 62 yards.
sure. So I mean,
Just
but like he's a guy. He's a dude.
Yeah.
You know, you did a really, really good job on RJ Harvey. He had one 31-yard run on the first drive of the game, and then you held him to 3.9 yards a carry from there out. But I'm not anointing this defense as like they've arrived. Like let's
I don't
see it
think so
again.
either.
Let's confuse the quarterback. Maybe get a cheap turnover off of him. Like, but you know, let's be real. Like I like the Bearcats' chances because I think they have a very large advantage at quarterback. So, and it's at home. It's early. All those things. I'm gonna say UC wins 31-24.
Okay. Do we know what's on the menu board? I don't
No
know that I
idea.
don't know that I'm allowed to make. I don't know that I can make it this week, Dave.
Oh, okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
Homecoming. I'm not gonna. It might be like we might be able to like stop by and say hello. I don't know that we're gonna be able
What does
to hang out
homecoming
for
have
long.
to do with a noon
The
game?
parade goes across where I would park at 9 o'clock.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about. Okay. Yeah.
We were told like the way that I normally come, we're not going to be able to get in until like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we might be able to pop in and like say hello and give everybody a hug and share the love.
Sure.
I don't know that we're going to be like hanging out at the tailgate this week.
Yeah. I don't know what's on the menu. I'm just very excited for the weather. I won't be sweating ridiculously for the first time this year at a UC home game. So very happy about that. And we're being honest. I know everybody, and I'm included. Like I've seen some. It's no longer nip at night. It's nip at noon.
That was funny. That was a good one.
And you know, I
barbecue.
I love the night games just as much as everybody else. I am kind of enjoying these nooners because there's been a lot of good football to watch, and I get to go home and watch Tennessee, Alabama, and then Georgia, Texas. I'm not going to miss them. So
Dave's a big nip at noon guy. Carrie says barbecue. Carrie, barbecue is in like
Sloppy Joe,
shredded pork
like
and
slop-
beef
like-
with okay.
like Sloppy Joe.
Barbecue. When you tell me barbecue, I think like ribs and brisket.
Yeah, no, yeah, they're bringing the smoker up to the top of Campus 3. We're going to be there Friday night doing.
Well, like. No, see Dave, if you do barbecue right, like if you do a brisket, part of the process is to wrap it up in butcher paper.
Oh, I know.
And then put it in a cooler for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
So you could do the brisket overnight, and then in the morning you wrap it up, you put it in the butcher paper, you put it in the cooler, and then by the time you get to the tailgate, you can slice great brisket.
Next game, why don't you? That'll be your job. You do that. You bring it to the tailgate, and we'll enjoy it.
I did that with a pulled pork for Kelsey's volleyball team. I had to feed 36 people. So I smoked a pork shoulder overnight and then got up in the morning and got it wrapped and like, held it for the rest of the day until they were ready for it in the afternoon. But yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah.
I'm not against that.
So, but yeah, should be good. Got a nice little slate of games to go home to watch. So, which we'll talk about here shortly because I actually did the 6-pack this week before
we can do that now. You've got your prediction in. I don't have anything left else to say about Iowa State. Do you?
About Arizona State? I don't have anything to say about Iowa State either. No.
I was like, there's a bunch of stuff on Twitter right now about Iowa State. So sorry. I don't have much to say left for Arizona State. So let's get into having brisket Sunday for Dave's birthday. You son of a bitch. You were holding out on us.
Not that kind of brisket. Different kind of brisket.
Oh, like Jewish brisket?
Like, yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Like, it's not like in a smoker for a long time brisket.
Like corned beef.
It's still delicious. It's like it has barbecue sauce on it. It's quite lovely.
Okay. We need to get your dad like a pit boss or something.
Maybe with some jalapeno mac and cheese. I don't know if Mom's hooking me up for my birthday with that or not.
For your dad's birthday, Dave, you need to get him a pit boss so he can start smoking some meat.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
You might be the beneficiary. You never know. He could just come over with like a rack of ribs for you one day. Like, hey, Dave, got some ribs. Even though it's like, what, like 45 minutes to their house?
Yes.
Let's get to the Simone 6-pack. I just dubbed it the Simone 6-pack. I like that. I think that flows off the tongue pretty well.
All right. First game. Nebraska at Indiana, noon, Fox. We obviously won't be watching because we're watching the Bearcats, but Indiana is on a wagon. That is undoubtable, but this is the first real defense they're facing.
Yeah.
So I still think they'll win. It's at home. They're playing really well. Still not sure we're all the way there yet with Dylan Raiola. But Nebraska has a very strong defense. So I just interested to see how their offense does in the first game that I would say that they've played anybody with a pulse defensively.
Dave, is there a chance Kurt Signetti's one and done at Indiana?
he elevates from this one season.
Look, proved it. Came to Indiana and won 9 games. Like, get me out of here before.
Told you all I do is just win.
Right.
So,
all I do is win.
I mean, there's a very I don't know their schedule exactly, but there's a very good chance they're like 9 or 10-0 when they play Ohio State.
Yeah.
Their schedule's not. They got no Oregon, no Michigan, no Penn State. Turned out very nicely for the first year coach.
So after Nebraska, they have Washington at home, Michigan State on the road, Michigan at home, and then Ohio State.
Oh, they do play Michigan.
But it's at Indiana, and Michigan's offense is terrible.
Not great. No, not great.
Then Ohio State, and then Purdue.
Yeah, Purdue's very bad. Very, very, very bad.
Very bad.
Outside of their weird fourth quarter comeback, but still lost last week.
Should have gone for 2.
They did. They didn't get it.
No, at the end of regulation, didn't they not go for 2?
No, Illinois had to kick they came back and got the lead.
Okay.
Illinois had to kick a field goal just to send it to overtime.
I'm thinking of a different game then. I thought they did.
You're thinking of Florida, Tennessee. Florida should have gone for 2.
Yeah, my bad.
I'm going to go OU at Miami, 3:30 ESPN Plus. Family and friends will be watching, but it is a fun rivalry. Both teams playing pretty well. Miami beat the crap out of Eastern Michigan last week. So, always a fun in-state game. Those two teams don't like each other at all. I will stay 3:30 CBS, Michigan at Illinois. We're starting to get into like the de facto elimination games with these bigger conferences that are going to get multiple teams in the playoff. Like somebody's not getting in. And so you're starting to get these games where It's like if this team loses this game, they still have to play Team X and Team Y that they're probably not going to beat. So, like, if they lose this one, they're probably not getting in the playoff. Both of these teams are ranked. I'm not sure either is truly a playoff team, but the winner probably puts themselves still in a very real possibility to make the playoff, just based on who they're going to play the rest of the way. If they win those games, then they would definitely make it.
Yeah.
7:00, LSU at Arkansas, ESPN. A very, very strong SEC rivalry that I don't think a lot of non-SEC people know is a really, really big rivalry. Arkansas quarterback Taylon Green has been injured. Looks like he is going to play. LSU had a crazy comeback as part of a very, very fun late night of games last Saturday. But Arkansas beat Tennessee at home, gets LSU at home after that Ole Miss game. Is there any bit of a letdown? Garrett Nussmeier is a very, very fun quarterback to watch. I think he's playing much, much better than a lot of people anticipated. So good game there. Oops, I skipped one, actually. A 3:30 ABC, Alabama at Tennessee. How could I forget? Tennessee's offense has been dreadful 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, what happened?
Josh Heupel happened. I wasn't wrong. I was just early. So we'll see if they can figure out what the heck's been going on there. This is definitely one of those. I'm not going to call them true elimination game, but like if you've already lost to Arkansas and in Bama's case, Vandy, and you still have to Tennessee, still has to play good teams. Alabama still has to play good teams. Like the loser of this is probably in a pretty rough spot to make the playoff. I mean,
life support. They're not out. But
no, not out because of all those good teams they still play. If they beat them, then they're a 10-2 non-SEC championship game team is still very likely to make the playoff. It's just which one is that going to be?
Right.
Because there's going to be several of them that could potentially be that. Texas A&M, Ole Miss, LSU. These two teams, Georgia has a loss. So, and then probably the headliner of the night, 7:30 ABC, Georgia at Texas. I mean,
sure.
Doesn't need to be a ton of analysis there, other than Georgia. Again, they dropped that one. Your 2 losses, and I think Texas is the best team in the country right now. But this game will go along.
Vandy?
What's that?
Sure, it's not Vandy.
No, not Vandy right now. I mean, that Georgia State loss is still gonna sting, but
Sure.
But you beat Alabama and you beat Kentucky. I mean, you got things going for you. But just a super fun game, prime time. Like these are like when we complain about conference expansion, these are the games when you're like, oh, it's not so bad.
Yeah, you get Texas, Georgia, middle of October.
Yeah,
I'm down with that. We got noon games, so
exactly.
Should be nice and comfortable at least by second quarter. Like Aaron and I should be done with everything hopefully by halftime. Getting the post game stuff, and then rocking and rolling and getting to watch a little football at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's a perfect one if you got the outdoor TV on the deck with the fire.
Oh, you're gonna need a fire probably.
You just watch a really good game that you have no real care of who wins or loses.
Should be a good one. All right, let's go ahead. Go ahead. What?
No, I just said hook 'em.
Hook 'em.
Can never cheer for Georgia unless it directly affects Tennessee.
Right. That timestamp brought to you by our good friends at Turtles Brew. 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, 6% ABV. It's a bourbon-infused sweet tea. Lots of flavors: cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla, lemonade tea, strawberry mint. There's over 100 locations in Ohio, 50 locations in greater Cincinnati. Visit turtlesbrew.com. Over 50 locations, not just 50. Visit turtlesbrew.com for more information and where to pick up some Turtles Brew. This is the perfect thing, Dave. You drink Cincy Light tailgate before the game. You drink some Cincy Light at the game. And then, you kind of recover, get a little dinner in you. And then you go home for that Texas-Georgia game. And on your way home, you stop at your nearest location, pick up some Turtles Brew, and then you got some bourbon-infused sweet tea ready for you for the night game.
Yeah, pour it in your thermos outside,
Yeah.
or whatever sort of insulated cup you like to use. No free ads, so I'm not going to shout out anybody. But yeah.
All right, we've got basketball Friday night, Dave.
What time is this game? I'm way out of
7 o'clock
on these things. 7 o'clock.
o'clock.
I'm thinking about attending. Should I attend?
Yes, I think so.
Can you get me and Will a spot to sit on the floor?
No, I don't think so.
I need to buy a ticket. How much are tickets?
Upper deck.
I'm asking all the questions I could use Google.com to find out on my own, but
I think there's I saw today, I think there's 150 tickets left in the lower deck.
okay.
I think those are like $40 each. And then the upper deck is $20 a ticket. There's a lot of seating availability in the upper deck.
All right.
Ohio State comes to town. We get
What's the spread?
It's so funny because what's going to happen, right? If they win, Final Four or bust. Like this is the year.
Let's make this tournament first, people. For God's sake!
But I'm telling you how people are going to react. Like this is the year. Wes has got the squad. They're in the league. Like they can do all the damage. Like all in. Let's go. If they lose, what we're giving this guy how many years to be here? Like he doesn't have these guys ready to play Ohio State in middle of October. Like, isn't this why you bring back all these guys so you can win an exhibition game against Ohio State in October?
You can't win them all if you don't win the first.
Except for when the first doesn't count.
Counts in our hearts.
Both coaches said they're going to be experimenting. They're going to be trying different lineups, trying different rotations, trying to find out what their rotations might be. Like, okay, I've got an idea. Like if I play these guys together, I want to see a 4 or 5 minute segment with them on the floor. So obviously you're not going to be able to take a lot from it, but it is going to be good 2.5, 3 weeks from the season, whatever it is, Dave, to get an observation of like, okay, here's what the team looks like with, a couple weeks left until we get going for real.
I'm all for stuff like this. Like, I take virtually nothing from it, but it's fun to see games that don't mean anything, but against like caliber opponents. I'd rather see that than a game against name your Division 2 or Division 3 whatever team. So yeah, should be fun.
If there's one thing you hope you're saying, let's say you go to the game Friday night, you and Will, little guys night out.
Yeah.
You go to the game, you're walking to the car with Will. What's one thing you want to be thinking in your head or talking about with your son that you got to experience?
Oh man, that's a good one.
I think I know mine.
I want to, and you guys kind of had a little bit of this conversation the other day on the BBP, kind of talking about like lineups. And I know lineups is kind of a silly thing to talk about, but it's kind of like baseball lineups, whatever. Starting five, who cares?
Yeah.
Who's on the floor, in winning time. But you were talking about like who's going to start, like Connor Hickman. You know, a lot of talk was around Connor Hickman potentially being one of the 5 starters. I kind of want to see Day and Dylan Mitchell with the second unit and see what kind of tempo that can create, because I feel like when you make those initial subs, you're not typically upping the tempo with the second unit.
You're slowing it down more likely because
kind
they're
of feel
not
like
as
those
talented.
2 guys together could be fun as like your energy dudes. Not that they're just energy guys. I mean, they have real talent and real skill. I'm not saying that they're like coming on the floor to, but like bringing that type of athleticism and pace and tempo off the bench, I feel like could be an advantage. So I want to see those 2 guys out on the floor together.
I want to see, and I'm not going to be upset if I don't see this at all. I would love to see Jizzle James kind of begin that sophomore leap. You know what I mean? Where if where we left off, he was playing great in the NIT. If he comes back out in this exhibition game and he's probably, you're not going to play him 32 minutes or whatever, but let's say he has 17 points in like 18, 19 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And he hits a couple nice threes and makes some plays in transition and like just looks like he's giving a representation of the jump he has made in practice over the spring and summer and into the fall. Like if it looks like that, boy, I think you walk out of there going, might have a star. Like might have a star, which we haven't had for a while. Like, Jaren was probably the last like real and that's not to take away from David DeJulius and Landers Nolly and
no, but there's levels, man. Like those guys had their moments, but like I mean Jaren won like the AAC Conference Championship game. Dude put the team on his back and was like, "We're winning."
Let's go. He did against a really good Houston team. So I think like if we're walking out of there like, damn, Jizzle looks like he took a leap. Looks like he's going to be a serious problem with the ball in his hands, from beginning to end. Then I think then maybe that conversation is a little different. Friday at 9:30.
I also know next to nothing about Ohio State. Who is good on their team?
They've got quite a few. I think they have 3 guys. Like I saw a top 100 list from a podcast I've done some work with, Screen the Screener. I think they had 3 top 100 guys on their list. They did a good job in the portal. They went and got a guy that Cincinnati wanted pretty bad, and Sean Stewart.
That's right.
So they're very talented. Now, this is the first full season of Diebler, as their coach. How much does that, he was able to come in and take over what I thought was a talented team that for whatever reason, I don't understand how Chris Holtman didn't win.
I don't either. I mean, it's one of the more confounding, like that just felt as perfect gets.
Yeah. I know what it is, some of it, Dave. It was a really bad, 3 years for talent in Ohio. So,
so go get talent elsewhere.
While I agree,
you don't have to take the guys just because they're
no. But listen to what I like. If the best player in Ohio is always in a higher end elite type player, and the odds are that kid's going to go to Ohio State, that makes life a hell of a lot easier than when you deal with a cycle where Ohio is, just not producing a lot of, the kids that they were producing were top 50, top 75, type kids. There was never that 5-star
Right.
that really like covers up some warts for you. That's what I'm saying. Like, and you're the state university in Ohio. You generally expect to get the number one player in the state every year. They did, but that number one player wasn't, a first team all conference or like a guy that really, really makes a difference. So I do think that's a big part of what hurt Chris Holtmann. But I just I thought he was going to be so good there. I really thought damn, we're on Ohio State's going to have a 10-year window of really good teams. Maybe not necessarily great teams, but really good teams. And it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I think Diebler had a lot of success at the end of last year because that roster wasn't terrible. It just wasn't great. He was able to win some games. He was able to build some momentum, and it got him the job. But
they got two good guards. I forgot that Michi Johnson transferred back.
Yes, from
South Carolina, and Bruce Thornton's good. So that's a good set of guards right there.
No, they're going to be solid. It's going to be there's going to be two really talented rosters on the floor.
Evan Mahaffey.
Yeah, he's back in the Buckeye State. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good chance to kind of gauge where they're at a couple of weeks before the season starts. And I mentioned having a bunch of guys back. You do want to see some of that continuity. Now, I think CMOS took a really big jump this offseason. I think Jizzle took a really big jump this offseason. If you told me I had to pick between John Newman and Dylan Mitchell, I don't know Dylan as well as I knew John. So as a person, I would take John Newman. But Dylan Mitchell was a top 10 prospect for a reason. And this is a guy, it's not a top 10 guy that vanished for 2 years. It's a top 10 guy that had, pretty significant roles on two Texas teams that were really good. So, you're not bringing in a guy that you're like, man, he just didn't get it done for a few years. I don't have to say the same things we've talked about all summer, but I think you're looking at a core of guys. Okay, let's see how far along this is in mid-October.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't really got to see that since the days of, Mick playing exhibition games against D2 teams, which you didn't really get a great feel for, but it sure was fun watching those teams go, 120 to 62 in exhibition games.
The annual Bellarmine game.
Right. Every time we discuss players, Fredericks is never mentioned. That's because I don't know who Fredericks is. There's no S. It's Frederick. Frederick. Look, we don't know with CJ. I would love to feel comfortable saying CJ Frederick is going to play 22 minutes a game and score, 9, 10, 11 points and shoot 47% from three. He hasn't been healthy for 3 seasons, Terry. And that's the only reason that maybe he's not getting talked about as much coming into this season. He played in 40 minutes. I think 41 minutes was the number, if I recall correctly, of Big 12 action last year. So CJ has to go out and prove, and potentially this could be good for him where he's maybe not needed for 25, 27 minutes a night, where he can come be a 17-minute a night guy that stretches the defense and gives you a legit. And here's the thing. Brass tacks, CJ Frederick is one of the best shooters in America when he's on the floor. He has been his entire time in college. So if you can get him for 17, 18 minutes a game, That is a major weapon. We're just waiting to see it. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Like CJ's an awesome dude. I love CJ. I want him to play and play a lot and have an outstanding final year of college basketball. What he's gone through hasn't been fair. How many people do you hear rip their hamstring off the bone? Like, that's just not an injury you hear a lot of.
I don't move with enough pace to do that.
I don't either. So yeah, I'm hopeful. Look, and the other thing is, if you've got CMOS, CJ Frederick, and Connor Hickman in your rotation, where at least one and usually two of them are on the floor most of the time, you're going to be able to shoot the shit out of the ball.
Yeah.
And I want that. Like, I love a team that can really punish you from deep. So I hope he's ready. If I had to guess starting five, Dave, I'll go. I've had a couple conversations. I'm just going to guess. I don't know that it'll be right, but I'll go with what I said Monday night. Jizzle, Dan, CMOS, Dylan, and Aziz as your starting five. And then it gets real fun and real interesting. I think Hickman will be the first guard to check in. Arrington Page is going to be the backup for Aziz. I don't think that's much of a question. And then you get into that group of Tyler Betsy and Rayvon and Josh Reed, like who is in that rotation and where as they, substitute in and out on the wing. So I'm ready for basketball, Dave. And that's having a lot of fun this football season because it's an interesting team. One, two, it's a team with a lot of good dudes that are very easy to talk to and seem to be about the right things. But you got a top 20 basketball team in the best league in the country.
Heck yeah.
It's going to be a fun 4 or 5 months, hopefully, on the hardwood. Oh, you got anything else? You're yawning.
It's late. No, I don't believe I have anything else.
All right. You don't want to get into to all the fun around the Big 12 this week with West Virginia, saying what
I'm just
Neil Brown.
Hey, our vibes are good. We don't have coaches saying, I hope you enjoyed the tailgate. We don't have coaches getting kicked or headbutted by cows. Yeah, I mean, things are okay.
Gus Malzahn saying it's a rebuilding year and
the restart. We're restarting. Six games into year 4. It's a restart.
We hit the easy button.
Yeah,
it looked like they hit the dump button because that UCF team looked like they took a dump all over Orlando. Yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. We will see you next Wednesday. I asked a friend of mine if he could come on. Apparently, Jason Kelsey's in town tonight for some reason.
Oh, okay.
And I asked if he was going to be here all weekend, and he said, no, I came in for something tonight. I'm flying back out tomorrow morning. And I said, cool. And then I said, hey, by the way, next Wednesday at 8:00, like if Wednesdays are a night that you get to get out and do stuff, he's probably not going to answer.
No,
but he did answer when I texted him if he was in town for the weekend. I'll check again. Let's see. Nope, he didn't answer. I'm going to try to get Jason Kelsey. We'll see what we can do. Anyhow, that's the podcast. We will see you next week. That is the BCJ podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com.